Good evening and welcome to the Mancunian Way and welcome to the Thursday night chat. I will be your host tonight. Martin is unable to join us. Got a lot of things going on at the moment, but you never know, he might join at the end. No, Martin. But I do have with me the Vimto kid, my partner in crime, Rich.
Good morning.
Good morning, mate. Or good evening. And obviously, Luke and Briggsy have joined us as well tonight. How are you, gentlemen?
Good, mate. All good.
Standard.
Briggsy, you all right?
I'll be there tomorrow.
So you're looking very moody there,
Love
Briggsy.
Easter. No, I'm chilled out.
You've not been giving your cream egg yet? Is that it?
No, I had a couple of cream eggs earlier, to be fair, Aussie. But no, got a busy weekend. Derby weekend tomorrow. And then it's City on Saturday.
Fair enough, mate. I'm glad you do well, and I'm glad you got your egg.
Plural.
Plural, sorry. Eggs.
Yeah, man.
And look who's late to the party. Ed, are you there? There he is.
There he is.
What's up, fellas? Big up the chat. Big up the panel.
He's not even working out. I was expecting you to be working on those guns.
Hey, I was. You know, with the time change, you guys catch me at the end of the workout now, not at the beginning.
Oh, we miss out on you working out, mate. It's such a shame. All those grunts that we used to hear in the background.
Oh, pause.
And Governor is in the background. I'm just waiting for him to come on camera. So he'll join us, I'm sure, in a few minutes. But yeah, so there is a big game coming up at the weekend. We will get into that. There's obviously been a few bits of news over the last couple of days. We'll also get into that. And then we'll just have a general chat about other things if we want, because there's not a massive amount of news. So, but yeah, I take it we're all looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah,
It's a big
good.
one.
It's a massive game. Yeah.
Knockout
And a
football,
good-
isn't it? Do or die.
Good kick-off time as well. For
Oh,
those
yeah,
of us down here,
12:45.
it's
Yeah, for you,
Yeah,
Rich. For
it's
you, Rich. Yeah.
beautiful for Australia. It's like I think it's 10:45,
All
and
right.
then the clocks change and we get an extra hour's sleep afterwards. Absolutely. So good chance to go out.
All right.
To
He's got to get up at 4:30.
yeah.
No. That's the West Coast. That's the West Coast. I'm on the East.
Ah, fair
Yeah.
enough.
So, Connor, I've just seen that you've asked a few times about Josco. From what I'm aware, he has been in light training. I don't think he's back at squad training yet, but all apparently is going well for him, and I think he's expected. Back as in, I think back in squad training towards the end of the season, but I don't think he'll really feature, in all honesty, now for the rest of the season. I think, we'll be looking for next season for him to come back to his best. And I suppose it'll be interesting to see if he makes the international squad. So, yeah. That's all the news I have, unless anybody else has got anything.
I mean, well, apart from obviously that Rodri conference that absolutely rattled the fan base, which I just couldn't believe what I was seeing on X, but then it's X. At this point, that's probably anymore how reactionary people are on there now. But apart from that, obviously Bernardo Silva. Well, obviously it's not confirmed by him yet or the club yet that obviously he's going. But I think usually when you hear the news of him actually about to go, usually follows with him leaving it. So imagine we'll probably hear soon, probably that being confirmed. But yeah, apart from that, it's been quite quiet now. Apart from that, it's quite nice.
Yeah, so if everyone who's
Just
just
having
joining and missed me at the beginning, Martin is okay. He's a bit sleep deprived. It's more just stuff going on with his dad. And as I said at the top of the show, maybe he'll join later on if he can. If not, he'll be on for the post match of the weekend. As you were saying, Luke, Fabrizio dropped a bit of news earlier to say that Rodri has a contract currently on the table, which I think has been known a little bit over the last day or two. City wanting to sign it. We all hope he does. But the rumours are that Real Madrid are possibly looking at him. I think, in all honesty, they're going to be looking at quite a few players. We were chatting about it before we came on live. And I could understand the interest. Why wouldn't you want to sign a player like Rodri? Band or Willer, everything he's done for us. But obviously, we would love to keep him because I think he's coming back into some sort of, he's getting back into the old Rodri now. I think we're starting to see glimpses of that more and more as he plays. So for me, I hope he does. What I will say, though, is that if he doesn't sign before the end of the summer, then personally, I would think about moving him on because I don't want it to be that, he's seeing out the last year of his contract and then, struggles to kind of put in a full shift for us. In the back, he's thinking, I don't want to get another long-term injury and mess up a move somewhere else. So that's just my opinion.
Do you think City can do that? I mean, by that I mean Rodri makes the call. Unfortunately, City have zero power on this at all. If Rodri doesn't get the deal he wants, he stays, and we can't sell him unless he wants to go. And equally, if he wants to go, we can't keep him. So, I Ozzy, as much as I think we might have views on what should happen, I think it is 100% down to one person and his agent what happens, and they make the call. And if he says, I want to leave on a free next year, there's zero we can do about it.
You're right, there's zero we can do about it, but I would say is that... Go on, Briggsy, go on.
Yeah, I just think you've got to respect Rodri's wishes. If he wants to leave this summer, leave next summer on a free, you've got to just say, look, you've given us a good 5-6 years of service. Now, you've won us a treble, you've been part of the 4P. All we can do is shake hands, move on, say thank you for creating such a dynasty here, and good luck in your next chapter, whether it's Real Madrid, whether it's, even if he went back to Atletico, wherever he goes, you've got to say fair play to him. It's his choice.
the end of the day, with football, right? People forget about this, right? It's a very short career. He's been there 7 years. He's a Spaniard. He's been there 7 years. I know Bernardo Silva was in for obviously a lot longer, but for these guys, obviously, especially Portuguese as well, like obviously they're used to a more hotter climate, obviously, and obviously as also a Madrid born and raised as well. I'm sure at some point they want to go back home. So it wants to go back home, then I probably get it. A lot of people are going to have to get over it. That not everyone stays here for like 10 years. It's great when it happens, but let's be honest, it's not a common thing to happen in football that a player stays for that long at a football club. But the fact he's been here almost 7, not 5, 8 years, I think is incredible. So I wish him all the best if he's to go, but I hope he stays, obviously.
I expect
Also,
all of you.
you've got to realise, I'm going to point out this quickly, sorry, Ozzy. You've got to realise something with the Rodri stuff. He's not hating Manchester City. If anything, he'd be hating Atletico if he went to Real, because he's a Atletico boy first and foremost. He owes us nothing. We owe him. So if he went to Real Madrid this summer, next summer, whenever, it's Atletico that are going to feel the pain because he was brought through their academy.
He was thanks for joining us.
I think we owe him. He owes us. I think he's become what he has because of City and Pep Guardiola and everything, and we've become what we had because of players like him. So I don't think there's a thing where we just, the players who play for us, I think it's mutual. I think the success has benefited the individuals, made them better players playing with Pep, but I think we've gained from those good players. So let's not belittle City's part in and Guardiola's part and his teammates' part in the player he became.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying we're going to speak about both sides on this channel. We're going to speak from a club perspective. We're going to speak from a player's perspective. I don't see it getting ugly behind the scenes if Rodri does decide to stay for another year until it's free. I don't think that's how we operate. I don't think we would force him out. But if he does want to leave, I think with the relationship he has with the club, the manager, you hope sometimes you would hope a player would get some money for the club. But with everything he's done, you wouldn't fault him for choosing to go on the free.
No, and I get where all of you are coming from. I really do. And we've done that in the past with a lot of players. We've kind of let them run their contracts down. We've let them go on frees. I think the difference for me, though, is that, a lot of our players, those treble winners are starting to go. And, for me, I was speaking to Luke before we started. I said, for me, this summer is all about a midfield rebuild. Because you look at that midfield at the moment, and it's probably been our weakest midfield in quite some time. And I think in the summer, I don't think City are going to want to have to rebuild if you're going to lose Rodri and Bernardo. I think that's going to be a hard one to do, to replace both of those players, because I don't think we've got a natural replacement for Rodri in the squad. I think you're going to have to go out there. I think you're going to have to spend some big money. I'd rather see some of that money go to other places. So, for me, I think sentimentality is all well and good, but if we are in the middle of next season and Rodri isn't performing like we'd all like him to, and we're seeing a drop-off, are we all going to have the patience to go, well, he's been such a brilliant servant, and, I think there's going to be a bit more of a, not so much a meltdown, but I do think there's going to be people calling. I think there's going to be people slightly shouting and saying, we should have gone out and signed this player, that player. And, so I think sometimes you have to put sentimentality on the side, and you have to go, we have to do what's best for the club, not for an individual player. As much as I love Rodri, I respect him, and I want him to sign a new deal, I think you've got to look at it and go, realistically, you've got to do what's best for the club. So, anyway. Spartacus, you've joined us, mate. Appreciate you joining. Have you got any thoughts on this?
I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Rodri see out his contract and actually not even go to Madrid, go to Barcelona. I've said this a couple of times already. But I would not be angry at him, no. But I do think that some people inside the club are probably going to try to force him to go this summer. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that right now with the amount of links that we're getting to Madrid. But even if he doesn't go this summer, I think the likes of Pep will play him regardless if he has a new deal or not. Like, he will be playing football, doesn't matter if he has a new deal or not. So trying to force him out like that's not really going to have much impact on his decision making, really.
Yeah, no, fair enough. We'll ultimately see. We're not going to get too heavy on this because, you know, it's been talked about quite a lot over the last few days. Well, last week, really, I think, since the international broke and when Roger made that statement. So we will see what happens in the summer ultimately. I think, you know, if he's going to sign a new contract, it will be announced just before the end of the season or just after the season. So, yeah, I don't expect it will drag into the summer. And honestly, I think there'll be a decision either way at that point. One of the things that I do want to discuss is a certain Portuguese player who has made the decision from reports that he is going to leave at the end of the season. Currently our club captain, and I think some would arguably say probably Pep's best signing since he's joined the club. I know Rich might doubt that. He may say Johnny Stones before he interrupts me. But there's no denying what Bernardo Silva has done for this club. You know, I think his impact has just been. I don't think you can measure it in statistics, if I'm honest, because he's never been. You know, because a lot of people look like GNA and all that kind of stuff, and you know, he's never been a big goal. He's never been a big assister, but he has scored big goals for us. He has assisted big goals for us. So on the biggest stages, you know, Champions League. You know, I think of that goal against Real Madrid. You know, his impact can't be measured that way, but I think, like I said, it can be measured in what he has done, his big moments. Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think, and we'll go round. I'll start with you, Rich. What are your thoughts and feelings on Bernardo?
My thoughts are he's one of the two greatest players of their modern City era with David, his brother. You know, the Silvers have been incredible. I think he's, you know, I think he's Pep's best signing. I also think he's been the most important player in the Pep era. I think he's played the most by a long way under Pep. Here's a player who has played, you know, averaging over a game a week for a decade. I mean, truly incredible. For City and international football, he's averaged nearly, you know, I think it's about 55, 60 games a season for 9 years that he's been with us. He's played in every position on the pitch. He's been the cult hero for the fans. He's been the one player who gets under the skin of opposition fans. Tactically, he clearly knows, you know, and Pep says it himself, he gets the tactics and he knows how City want to play and he helps City execute on the pitch. And in our, you know, whether it's our quad, treble or whatever, he's been absolutely vital. And I think he'll be the hardest player to replace that we've ever had, because I don't think we've seen in our lives a player so versatile who takes on multiple positions in a match. So tactically, he's going to be a huge gap to fill. And I think in terms of our personality, our character, our ability to get under the skin, whether it's booting the ball out at Wembley early on to show what City mean in the Carabao Cup final that set it up for us, whether it's cup of tea when Liverpool you know, walking out to celebrate their title, you know, whether it's just whether it's getting stuck into opponents' heads, whether it's getting back and tackling their best player in the first 30 seconds of a game, we're going to miss his personality. So we have to this summer, and when he leaves, and he leaves with all our love, we will have to really have a think about how we replace him. Firstly, how we replace his personality in the team, because we need a shithouse. Because without one, we will be less effective. We're going to need someone on the pitch who Pep trusts to convey the tactics and switch where they play to fit the state of the game. And I think the players will miss him. I think, one thing I remember really well about Bernardo and the type of person he is was when Kuzanov made his debut and he had an absolute shocker at Chelsea. Bernardo moved back into playing in centre midfield, and he talked to Kuzanov, probably one of the few people who spoke 7 languages in the team. So coached Kuzanov in French, helped him, pulled Kuzanov back to actually end up having, after the first 10 minutes, a decent game. And I think, had we not had Bernardo, the Kuzanov we see today could have crumbled, could have almost been finished on his first game after the mare he was having. But Bernardo pulled him through, and that character is going to be missed. So I'm sad, but he's that no one has played that many games for us in a 9-year period in our history, and we've just got to love him and wish him the best.
Yeah. I mean, across his appearances, I've just had a quick look. It's 449 appearances across various competitions, and he has got currently 76 goals, and his assists are 77. So it's not like he hasn't had some decent numbers. So Briggsy, yeah, it really is. Your thoughts, mate?
I'm going to be just basic on this one because I've said it all the time. You've just got to say he's been a servant all the times. He's apparently wanted to leave in the summer, like homesick, and he wants to go back to warm climate. Yeah, he's not kicked off at the club. He's not said, fuck off to the fans. He's just said, I'll keep my head down, and that's what he's done. So, like I said with Rodri, we should just say thank you for what you've done over the last few years. You've been a commitment. You've been an ambassador to the club, and if it's time for him to go, like I said, wish him all the best. Who's got a fuzzy mic?
I've got a feeling it might be
Governor.
I won't be long. Getting out the car. Morning, boys. Evening.
I think I'd just like to kind of pick up that point of yours, Briggsy, just before I bring everybody else in. Does anyone think that time? We go back a few seasons now, but it was pretty much every summer for like 3 or 4 seasons where there were the rumours that he was wanting to leave, and okay, he never really came out and fully said it, but there was enough going on to know that he did want to go during various points. Does that at all tarnish his legacy at City for anyone? I mean, I'm just putting the question out there. I'm not saying it does or doesn't, but does it at all, Briggsy, for you?
Like I just said then, if it was to kick up a storm and say, do you know, like Joao Cancelo, get me out of the club, then we have a problem. But what he's done is, yeah, it might have been overplayed certain times by Pep, but even when he's been tired, he's always give 100% to that shirt. So, like I say, no problems with like all the summer drama, all the summer speculation. He's kept his head down, and that's good enough. That's all you want from a player.
Yeah, I've never seen. He's like dick off levels of effort, but with 10 times the talent. I've never seen Bernardo not give everything on the pitch.
Can't believe you put that.
Look at the Tevez situation, like with the substitution. He could have said, like, you know what, I'm not playing again for City. I know Mancini said that in 2011, but Tevez came back on the pitch and kept his head down in the end. That could have been Bernardo Silva, like, fuck off to the club, Joao Cancelo again, Carlos Tevez in 2011 situation. but he kept on going. He's a fighter.
Yeah. Luke, your thoughts, mate?
Well, I want to sort of go back to, I think, a season, 18-19. Kevin De Bruyne obviously got injured at the start of the season. After obviously an unbelievable player of the year season, obviously probably one of the best fielders in the world, probably the season that he put in for us, obviously in the Centurions year. Then Bernardo Silva, the year after, stepped up, took over, and for me, I know Salah and Van Dijk were both incredible themselves, but Bernardo Silva was absolutely outstanding for us that year. Like, he stepped up in big games, all over the pitch, worked his arse off for us, obviously, in big games, in the Champions League, obviously, over the years, against Tottenham, obviously, in the quarterfinals, against Bayern, when he absolutely mugged off Musiala, Fonzo Davies, and that, by dribbling all around him up prime Messi. Obviously, Real Madrid as well, home and away. He's done it before. Like, he doesn't score a load of goals, you're right, and doesn't get loads of assists, but when he gets assists and goals, it is in big moments. As one thing I will never ever hate Bernardo Silva. Anyone in his fan base who's been against him, I feel like you don't really sort of properly appreciate how good he's been. Because look, I know is he getting older now? Of course he is, and I think some players just I've been played so much, so the way he's been played a lot. Obviously, his legs obviously are starting to go, and it is what it is. But I can never ever fault the effort levels. I never thought the passion that he's given for us. Like, what is it, like 9 years? Now is it 9-10 years? Almost
2017. So 9 years.
9 years. Yeah, 9 years. 9 years is a long time, for a player like him to be here. And like Ricky said, he could have gone a few years ago. Yet he's still here. Kept going. Have us win trophies after trophies, league after league, treble. Obviously, a few years ago. Just, I love him to bits, and I'll never ever, always appreciate how great he's been for us. I think probably it may be time to go, obviously, for his own sake, of a fresh start, either in Italy or somewhere in another league, probably to sort of have something different for his career. But he'll leave. I mean, a legend's a big one because it's a big word for anyone to use about any player. But what he's given us, I probably would say he's probably up there. I'd say in terms of that kind of player. Yeah, What a player! Incredible player.
Just before I bring in Spartacus, that comment from Connor. Honestly, Connor, I don't think he will get a statue. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve one in some respects for everything he's done over the last 9 years, but I just don't feel it'll happen, if I'm being brutally honest.
Why? I think
Ozzy,
more than anyone, he deserves one.
Go on. Right, Rich, I'm going to agree with Ozzy on this point. I was shaking my head then. But if we give out statues to every single player, like especially with the treble and the 4P, the whole stadium's going to be covered with statues. Like, why don't we go back to
be a tourist attraction in its own right?
Exactly, we'll become Disneyland. But the point is, if we give out statues to everyone, then basically we're not even that good of a club, because you don't see Man United, Liverpool giving out statues to all their legacy players. We've got to be real here. It's like Yaya Toure with the training pitch. Who's got the walkway? Shit, I forgot. But yeah, Alan Taylor, and that's it.
I think De Bruyne gets.
We've got to give something else.
Yeah,
that's different with Kevin De Bruyne because there is a place. But
yeah, I think for me.
Yeah, I think for me, like.
Sorry, Ed.
Yeah.
I was going to say just for.
I just think.
Go on, Ed.
No, I was just gonna say for me, it's just like I think statues are reserved for like the creme of the creme. Like Kevin De Bruyne is one of the best players of all time, at City. I think those are the people that get statues. I think everybody else, gets a training pitch or a walkway or those type of things. But statues should be reserved for the top of the top. The players in an all-time 11.
Ed, I agree with that. I think Bernardo's done more for City than Kevin De Bruyne has, and I think the loss of Bernardo will be bigger than the loss of Kevin De Bruyne.
I disagree.
Honestly,
oh shit!
I think no, because Kevin De Bruyne, Kevin De Bruyne's best games, he produced magic that was probably higher than Bernardo. But Kevin De Bruyne, for a third of his seasons at City, barely played. For a third of his seasons at City, played half to 2/3 of the time. and for a third of his seasons at City played at his best level the whole season. I think
Rich. So you're saying Bernardo Silva is a top 10 midfielder in the Prem?
I think Bernardo's been the best midfielder in the Prem in some of his seasons in the Prem.
No, all time.
I can see the.
I think Bernardo in our treble season was I'd say who was the best player that season. I'd say Bernardo and Stone's probably our most important players that season. I think everyone underestimates Bernardo, and Bernardo sacrificed himself for the team every game. De Bruyne was given everything by the team because players like Bernardo went to where they weren't necessarily in their best position, because Bernardo played half his City career in positions that weren't even his best position, making sure the team worked. And I think without Bernardo, we would have won half the titles that Pep won. I think without De Bruyne, we would have won 3/4 of them. Honestly, I think people neglect how important he is.
I disagree, but fair enough.
And that's why we're here to have these debates, isn't it? At the end of the day, I mean, I can understand where Rich is coming from, because I think for me, Bernardo is one of those players who he doesn't get the plaudits and he doesn't get the goals and assists like Kevin De Bruyne. He doesn't seem to kind of pull it out of the bag like De Bruyne. Bernardo is just one of those players who quietly goes around, and I think he's the glue that makes a lot of things work. And I think Rich is right with the way during the treble season. I think he was instrumental at times. But I think for me, going back to kind of Briggsy, for me, a player to get a statue has to be one of those players where you look at it and you start arguing those cases of the best player in the Premier League. Those debates, best midfielder in the Premier League, and Bernardo just doesn't enter that conversation. You're talking about
that's
an
players
argument,
players enter that
what I'm saying is
United and Liverpool fans.
Listen. And what I'm going to say, Rich, let me just say this point. My point is that for us as City fans, we see it every week. We see what he does. But when you start talking to other rivals, other fan clubs, they will look at someone like Kevin De Bruyne. They won't look at someone like Bernardo. And that's the difference, because you have to be that type of player. No, it's not about hate. I think
they do. They all hate Bernardo.
No, I know they do.
And that's why. And is a stat for you?
Hang on.
When Bernardo played, City won 72% of games, and it's less than 70%.
This is where you're chatting Macca. This is where you're going to be chatting Macca, because I can see we've got an Arsenal fan in the chat, so I'll use this one as an example.
Yeah.
Arsenal Invincibles, yeah? How many of the Invincible teams have got a statue around the Emirates? Because Gilberto Silva's not got a statue. So the same with Bernardo Silva. You want to give the players who have literally contributed everything as a whole, and like service, like let's say 10 years, that statue. You can't just be giving statues to anyone, because if that's the case, let's just give one to Rico Lewis.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that
he's won a treble.
Compare it. No, it's got nothing to do with winning treble football. It's got to do with playing 450 games in the best team we had. Kevin De Bruyne, 67% win rate when he played for City. Bernardo Silva, 72%. So when Bernardo, obviously, a lot of those games are the same. But I think it's just I think there's a failure to understand the importance of a player who plays in ultimately an unsexy position for the benefit of the team, makes the team better, versus a show pony footballer who is getting the glory moments. And I honestly think that.
You're not saying Kevin De Bruyne is a show pony, are you?
Sorry, I was going to say we watch him week in, week out, right?
Yeah.
And what Bernardo is an unsung hero, really. I don't think he's up there for a statue, or I'm not into these statue things anyway, but he's just an unsung hero. He's like I'm not going to put him down, but it's like one of the James Milners. Do you know what I mean? That they've always they've always been there.
You mean like John Wright Phillips, a cult hero?
I think he's a bit. I think he's a bit more than Sean right now.
Governor,
Yeah,
I got
maybe.
the perfect
Maybe.
comparison, guys. Hey, I don't hear nobody. People over here would understand what I'm saying. I don't hear nobody comparing Pippen to Jordan.
Yeah,
No, but I think it, honestly, if you're saying that, right, who was the first player? Who was the first player the Chicago Bulls coach picked in the team? It wasn't Pippen. It was Jordan when he was fit. Pep. And if you ask Pep, Pep has picked Bernardo over any other player in his career. Pep has picked Bernardo over any other player in our team when he's been at City. He's left out De Bruyne. He's left out David Silva. He's virtually never left out Bernardo Silva. So Pep has clearly demonstrated that he thinks Bernardo Silva is the most important player Pep has had at Manchester City. Now, if you're judging statues, then the actions of Pep, our greatest ever manager, should show who he thinks the most important player is. And the most important player is not the one who necessarily shines the most as an individual, but the one who makes the team play the best. And if you want to, and in many ways, David Silva was the same. David Silva, I don't understand when people say De Bruyne's better than David Silva, because he wasn't. But David Silva had fewer of those massive moments than De Bruyne, because David Silva was about knitting the entire team together. And Bernardo was about knitting the entire team together, which is why I think, even though they don't get the moments or the plaudits that, you know, Aguero or Yaya or De Bruyne get, I think David Silva and then Bernardo Silva have been the two most important players of the modern City era, the two best players at making the team play well in the modern City era. And for me, if I was going to name three greatest City players, it would be Colin Bell, David Silva, Bernardo Silva. Now, I don't want to get an argument about who's better than David or Bernardo. I mean, because it's like choosing between your kids. I think David Silva, you know, probably edges it in better, in important. Maybe Bernardo does because of what he's done in more trophies. But I think even City fans just massively underestimate the importance. And I think it shows that football becomes far more about individuals than the team, because the players who have individual moments rather than the ones who make the team play the best get the plaudits, get the statues. But teams win things because of the team players.
I think if you ever did get a statue, which I don't think you will, it would be holding that cup of coffee. That would be the statue.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. Maybe we could put the statue outside Anfield. buy up something in Liverpool and just put the statue outside Anfield.
You put it outside the away
end. That would be class.
That would be
outside the away end.
Yeah, we'd all love that. And
actually, outside the away end with a cup of tea that would be gold.
Yeah,
I think
that remind them every year.
Yeah, we should tell the club that.
Spartacus, mate, you've been very patient. I'll let you come in now, mate. Sorry.
There's not much to say, but I don't quite agree with Bridge that he's better than KDB, that he's a bigger player for City than KDB, but I do think that he's up there in the top 5 players we've ever had. I think even now his importance to the side is extremely underrated, and I think we would highly benefit from having him for an additional season as well. So if he wants to go, fair enough, he's done enough for the football club to deserve the right to choose when he goes. But if the club would be able to keep him for one more season, even if it is just to pick a player under his wing and just teach him how to understand the game better, the way that he does, I think the club would massively benefit from that.
Yeah. I think one of the things when you compare...
Sorry, Ozzy, I was just going to say, if you was talking early on about Bernardo being a shithouse, I think the new shithouse we've got in the team is Turkey.
Yeah.
Whether he can carry that through, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
I think he will. I think he seems to have that attitude. But what I was going to say, just before you said that, Governor, is for me, you when you start comparing the likes of Bernardo Silva, David Silva, KDB, it's one of those where, you know, if they'd all played at different eras for City, it's you can have those conversations. Well, we never saw them play together, but in fact we did, which is one of the great things that we had so many quality players. But it also makes it hard to have these discussions as well, because we've had so many brilliant midfielders in this team that it is so hard to separate them and go who is the best out of them, because I think they all had their attributes that delivered for this team. You know, we know that Bernardo Silva was probably Pep's favourite player because he played him so much, and he was definitely the glue that kind of made things happen. And Kevin De Bruyne was just the assist king, and just the spectacular goals he would score, and the free kicks, and just could come up with something for nothing. And then the eventual link up between him and Aguero, and then him and Haaland, it was just magical to see. So, and obviously David Silva, just the magician that he was for us. So it's really hard to kind of say who was the best, because it just is, because I think they all were best. But where, like I said, it comes back to me where it's just that special player at that special moment. And I just think, as much as I can understand where Rich's points are coming from, and I agree with him on a lot of his points, I think you just won't see a statue, because when you look at between him and KDB, just as the two examples, right, but with David, is that he was just such a magical player, and big events, big moments. And I mean, how often have we ever seen a player depart like the way Kevin De Bruyne departed? I don't think we'll get that with Bernardo Silva.
I think that. I mean, Del Silva should have got that. I should have Aguero, but COVID ruined that side. It was a real shame.
Yeah, exactly.
And ultimately, the challenge this summer is going to be that when Bernardo says goodbye, Johnny Stones, who's an absolute legend of the club, says goodbye. Nathan Ake, who's a great player, says goodbye. Yeah. Rodri, could, Ballon d'Or winner, could possibly saying goodbye. We're probably also going to be seeing a few other players going. So I think this summer we're going to see at least two, possibly three legends going. And then we're going to see two or three other players who've played in the treble and the four-peat and things going as well. So I think that's going to make it hard. I mean, what do I do when Bernardo and Johnny Stones are both going at the same time? My cult hero and one of the three greatest players to play for the club. I mean, it's going to be emotional for that, and it's like if Aguero, Silva, and company had all gone at the same time. You can't just give one player the focus, because everyone deserves it. And even like Nathan Ake, let's not forget how good Nathan Ake has been for City, what important part he's played in games. And he's going to go, and it's almost going to be an afterthought, because Stones and Bernardo go, and possibly Rodri. So someone like Ake, who deserves a huge reception, it is going to be not even the bronze medalist this summer. So I think that's just. And then if Pep decides to go at the same time,
well, I was going to say, Rich. I was going to say, Rich. Another a quick one on Bernardo again. You can't compare him with David and that, because David and that never played left back, right back, centre back. So it's a different kettle of fish with Bernardo. Do you know what I mean? He's played in all these different positions, and Bernardo and that have not. Yeah. So it's a different kettle of fish. But what you've just said there is it could be a massive exodus, which that's why I think we might have to hold on to players, because you can't have all them players going at once. We just have no midfield. Like, totally. Even in not so much at the back, Ake and Stones haven't been playing much, but there's a mass exodus there. So we can't let everyone go at once.
No, you make a good point there, Governor. I think, as I said at the beginning, the top of the show, when I was speaking to Luke about it before we started, that midfield is going to need a big rebuild in the summer. I think it's been one of our weakest midfields in recent seasons. Because Pep Guardiola's teams are built on the midfield. He's always said, if I could have a midfielder for every position, I would. Do you know what I mean? And so that's how important he thinks of the midfield. If we think about this season's midfield, it's been very choppy, changey. It's been very much trying to bring Rodri back into playing to his best. It's been trying to play Bernardo Silva as often as we can, even though we all know, now we know he's coming to the end of his City career, but also we know he can't keep going on forever. And then you're thinking about O'Reilly's now just coming. So to me, it's been too much chop and change, and it's not been a stable, regular midfield that we need for a season. So I think there's going to be big attention in the summer. I think you're right on the respect that you don't want to let too many of the experienced players go, because you still need that experience in the team. But eventually, all the big players we've just talked about are going to have to go at some time, whether it's this summer or next summer. We have to move on as a club from these legends.
We're looking at another transitional year again, really, aren't we?
Yeah, probably another one. Yeah.
Possibly, but I also think, you think about the players that we've brought in over the last couple of seasons. They have started to bed in now. They're starting to kind of find their feet. Some haven't, and we'll touch upon some of those later, maybe. But I think we're going to have to accept the era of dominance that we've had maybe coming to an end, but it doesn't mean it's over. I think we can still challenge for the Premier League, definitely. I think we can still go for the likes of the Champions League. We just might not see what we've seen during the treble and the 4P and the domestic treble. We may not see those times again, because they were so special with some absolutely special players. And it'll be interesting to see how the next few seasons go, with these players and with some new additions in the summer and some beyond that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that it's scary that next season, if all of those go, probably the most experienced player in that squad is probably going to be Foden and Haaland. If everybody goes together with Ruben Diaz, there's no experience really in that midfield area. So maybe we have to try and keep one of those.
Yeah.
With the Foden situation, would you talk about renewing his contract? I'd renew it, but I won't give him a pay rise and do it on performance.
You can't really do that.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that road with Foden.
Foden, I mean, the question, we can't beat about the bush. It's got to be mentioned, hasn't it? Because I did say a few weeks back about what is a professional player's career. About 10, 15 years, and Foden's getting to that point where, he's like Peter Pan, isn't he? Doesn't seem to age. Do you know what I mean? But he's at that point where he's at the top. So I know he's still in his prime if you think about it, but I reckon he's played a lot of years. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think he's reached
his
crossroads.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd put it in crossroads for me. I think at the end of the day, we know there's a lot of news around Foden, that Foden has had some issues with his mental health. He's had a lot of issues, I think, at home. And that can have a massive impact on you more than people want to kind of realise. So if we're going to keep this strictly to football and on the pitch, then, I understand the frustrations. I understand why people want more from him. I think at some stage he will get to being the player we want to know, because we have seen glimpses, I'd say more than glimpses of this season. I think we've seen some good few months last year where I think we were seeing the old Foden. For me, I think Pep will integrate him back into this team, and he'll still become an important player. It just may not be this season. But I think at the end of the day, he's still got time on his side. He's only 25.
Yeah.
He's not even got the peak yet.
I know it sounds mad, but I think, and I think it'll be really hard in the short term, but I think the best thing for Phil Foden would be not getting picked for the World Cup. I think he's played played 5 seasons back to back with no rest, and I think physically I think that's been really hard on some of our players, but I think mentally it's been very hard on him. I think the best thing for Phil Foden that could possibly happen would be a 2-month holiday with his family somewhere really hot and sunny and relaxing with a carp lake where he can spend the morning on the beach playing with his kids, going fishing in the afternoon, and do that for 8 weeks with nothing on his mind, completely rest, completely recuperate, completely rehabilitate. And I think there's probably a lot of City players who need that. But I think Phil more than anyone, you know, and I want him to get picked for the World Cup, but I don't think it would do him good. I just think, you know, sometimes human beings need a break. Sometimes they need to get away from it. Sometimes they need to completely rest, and I do think that's what Phil needs.
I think also as well. I think is that maybe the shock factor of him not being picked might give them motivation to say, right, you know, get rest up, go again next season. It might sound harsh, but I think sometimes you need that. Sometimes a bit of a reality check of where you are yourself. Well, not to go at him, just sort of saying maybe for himself is what he needs.
But I don't think he's the only one. I've watched, you know, a fair bit of Arsenal this season. I think Bukayo Saka needs 8. I mean, he had a break last summer because they weren't at the Club World Cup. But he looks like a player who needs a break. Yeah, right. Cole Palmer looks like a player who needs a break. Yeah. There's a lot of England players, young England players who just look like they've played too much football. Look like mentally they're under pressure, and you know, it's one thing that's amazed me about Bernardo this season. I was very strong this time last year that we should leave Bernardo out of the World Club Championship because he'd played way too much football. You know, there's no way he could have another season without injuries. You know, he hasn't had a break for 7 seasons or something properly. But he's come through and played well. But you know, we have players who need a break, and I just, you know, yes, it's the World Cup, yes, it's exciting, but I wish every City player was just getting the summer off and going on 6-week summer holiday because we need it.
Look at Haaland,
we need it.
Look at Haaland as well. I mean, Haaland, obviously, I wouldn't say, you know, he's been obviously a great start to the year. But I mean, Ballon d'Or levels of form to the goals he was getting. Then, since I think the start of this year, I'd say he's been 5 goals.
November.
Yeah. Well, even in April, from like New Year onwards, 5 goals in calendar year in April. Well, that for him is crazy.
He dropped off in November.
He's going to be a star in the World Cup, though.
He will be.
He's going to be a star in the World Cup.
I think maybe some goals as well will help him out as well. I think if he gets a few goals, maybe in the next few games, we'll give him that bit of confidence again. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I think with Phil, I think he will come back to his best. I honestly do. I think I agree with Rich. I think he just needs some time off. We forget how many games, you know, these players have played over the last few seasons with very little break in between. And I think ultimately, Luke, I kind of think he already knows that he's not probably going to be picked for England. Yeah. I think, you know, all the chat really and the comments from Tuchel, I think kind of already sounds kind of alarm bells for Phil that he's just not quite at his best at the moment and probably won't get picked. I don't think there was any help in being put in the false 9, in all honesty, in that game. But you know,
I think he likes Phil. I think he does. You can tell he does. But I think the problem is you can't just pick him for the sake of it. I'd rather have the form players. And I love Phil. Phil do. Yeah. But he's not on form right now. Neither is Palmer, by the way. Neither a day. But you know what I mean? It's just
for England. We've got so many of those players. It's one of those problems for England where they've got so many players in those positions that it's difficult to pick between all of them in some respects. Yeah. For us as City fans, we know what Foden can do. And I think a lot of us would turn around and say, listen, we'd love for him to go to the World Cup and prove all those doubters wrong and light up the World Cup because we know the special talent he can be when he's at his best. You know, there were talks, you know, going back a good few years back where, you know, people were saying, you know, the England team should be built around Foden. And we could see that at the time. Like we were all going, yeah, we can see that happening. But right now, no. Do you know what I mean? You have to be brutally honest and go, he's just not at that level at the moment. So
saying that, RD, we've just mentioned all the midfielders that are not on form. Even Bellingham as well. So
Bellingham,
he's gonna have to pick. He's gonna have to pick someone. Do you know what I mean? All them players we've just mentioned are not on form.
Well, as Connor put, Palmer, Eza, Rodgers, Bellingham, Foden, all 5 of them have been like up and down form the entire year. Like not a single player has been consistently the same level throughout the entire season. Everyone's like good form here, good form there. It's not throughout the entire year the same level of form. And like, look, obviously, strikers Harry Kane, no doubt there. Harry Kane is probably the best thing to play right now in the world right now in current form.
Yeah.
Rightly so. But the thing is, he'll need help, Harry Kane. And he's a great striker, but even at Bayern, you have to play around that can help him out. And you need players like the likes of obviously that Connor's put here to step up for us in that tournament. And if none of them are, you can't rely on one striker to keep doing it for you. So
Yeah.
I think this next 2 months will be massive for these players because they've got now hit form now to get picked in that squad.
Personally, looking from an outsider, like obviously I'm Brazilian, not English.
Yeah.
I do think there are a lot of very talented players that you guys have for those 10 spots. But I also think that every single one of those are being criticized to hell back. And I think this is having a very big impact on them. I think Saka is being criticized to hell at us. I think Palmer is being criticized to hell at Chelsea. Foden at City. I think Rodgers at Villa has been very much criticized. So I think this has been something that it's not really helping those players. And just looking from the outside, I think all very talented footballers, but I think that all of them are having very big issues with the way that Tuchel wants to play as well. I don't think either of, actually 4 of them, any of those 4 realistically have the skill set to do what Tuchel wants from the number 10, which is being that player that runs in behind Kane when he drops deeper. And if you're not going to have that, you're just going to have 2 players occupying the same spaces all the time in Kane and the number 10. So maybe Tuchel is going to look at this more in the sense of maybe I don't play with a number 10 and play with 2 8s and wingers who come in field. But
yeah, I think you're right. I think the reason England didn't win the Euros is because Bellingham tried to make it all about him and kept going into Kane's space, and Kane's better than Bellingham. And, I think we didn't figure out how to play Bellingham because I think he ruins Harry Kane and he doesn't bring in players. I think the one sad thing for England is that England's most informed winger is going to be playing for Ghana against England. And, that's a pity for England. Semenyo.
Oh, yes, Semenyo's English.
Yeah. And England's most informed striker, or jointly with Kane, is going to be playing for Norway again. That's the amazing thing. We've got Leeds-born Haaland and London-born Semenyo, and they're not playing for England.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. For the City players that are going to go to the World Cup, I think the most obvious right now is O'Reilly. And whether that's at left back or in the midfield, that'll be down to Tuchel to decide. So, Stones, his fitness, who really knows? But I mean, Gahey obviously, I think will definitely be the centre back. Just to review and just to see who he's paired with. But yeah,
I'll tell you what, if anything happened to Pickford, I think Trafford would be straight.
Definitely.
I think
don't get me started.
I was going to say that.
I'm kind of interested to say what you're going to say about that, Spartacus, because being an outsider.
Don't stir the fire,
mate.
We're on fire anyway.
No. He's the best goalkeeper in England and the best goalkeeper at City, but he's going to start for none of those 2, which is a shame for the kid. I feel for him so much.
Oh, that's an argument I'm not sure we want to get into tonight.
I can't
and to be honest, Spartacus wouldn't be on his own with that. I know other City fans with the same opinion. I mean, he's obviously an incredibly talented player, and he's going to be England's goalkeeper within the next year. Probably not till after the World Cup, but I think he will be, and he's going to be a first-team player in the Prem. It looks unlikely at City, but you know, he's fantastic.
Oh,
But I think Gay's very likely to play for England as well.
A certain manager at Munich might want him to be the next goalkeeper there. You never know. They need a replacement for a legendary one. He fits the criteria to go there.
Trafford at Bayern. Yeah.
Whatever happens with Trafford, we have to leave. Let him leave if he does, on brilliant terms. We have to get into the deal, even if we sell him cheaper, a massive ability to buy him back cheaper than anyone else, because whilst I'm kind of in the air. I'm not siding with Spartacus on this or against him, but in 3 or 4 years' time, I think, Donnarumma will want to go back and play. He'll probably want to go and play in Spain or Italy. He likes to move around. I don't think Donnarumma is going to be City's keeper for 15 years or even a decade. I think that, look around the world, there's every chance that in 3 or 4 years' time, Trafford's one of the top 3 keepers in world football. So, I would want to make sure whatever we do, there's a way back and a door back. And maybe he goes to Bayern, plays for Company there for a few years. Company comes back, brings Trafford with him, and, all is well with the
Rich,
world.
but if you replace him, who are you replacing him with? Because for me, there's no one out there.
No, but I mean, that's the problem, you just can't have brilliant reserve goalkeepers, because a goalkeeper wants to play every week.
No one out there for me.
Trafford's way too good for the bench. So if we replace Trafford, it's with someone who's not as good.
I mean, I didn't want to get into this conversation because,
that means it's a good conversation, Ozzy.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like I'm going to have to put my 2 cents in. Listen, I do rate him. I think he's a cracking young goalkeeper. But I think, in all honesty, I'm not sure he was really offered when he came in the number 1 spot. I don't think that was guaranteed for him. The ultimate plan for him going forward, I'm going to be brutally honest, and this may kind of come across in a way that you may be. I'd keep him in the summer, if I'm honest, because he signed a long-term contract. He wasn't promised anything. And in all honesty, it's not an area of the pitch I want to have to sort out in the summer, because I think there are other areas that need sorting. He's made a couple of comments in his recent press interviews that I've not been particularly happy with. And I think City on the board won't be particularly happy with him about. I think it's, at the end of the day, it's sit down when you come in, do your job, do the best of your ability, and we'll see what happens in the future. But right now, it's not an issue for me. I think he's a professional and he needs to act like a professional. I think you have to just take your time and wait for your moment, because at the end of the day, Donnarumma could get an injury, in the next week or two, and then he may get his chance. Do you know what I mean? And then that may be he goes into next season, because he may have to be the number 1, and then we'll be talking about a completely different scenario. So, for me, you don't get rid of him after a year. You just turn around to him and say, "Listen, you signed the contract. You knew the position you were getting into. Yes, we signed Donnarumma because at the time, if we're being brutally honest, he was the world-class keeper that we needed at the time." And we've got now.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's not Pep's way. And given that he's made the comments he has, but if the club says, Pep, you've got to have unhappy players in your squad, then Pep's going. And that's not, if we want Pep to stay, you can't force him to have unhappy players. And given how vocal Trafford's been in a season where he's relatively happy, if he had a deal for a good money to go to a top Premier League club in the summer and we kept him, I think it would be a disaster for the squad. I just don't think you can force a player to stay.
He's under contract, Rich. It's not back force. You're under a contract.
Oh yeah, legally, legally you can force them, but if you've got a player who's unhappy in training every day and he's going to the press and saying stuff every day, which he's, entitled
he's not doing it
to
every
do.
day, Rich. That's not.
No,
I
but
said he made two comments.
Yeah, but he would be doing it a lot more if he was offered, say, came with a deal, 50 million to go to Newcastle, and City said no. And honestly, if he comes with money like that, you don't want to waste that sort of money on a keeper who's going to play in cup games.
And
but listen, I mean, just
my
quick point. My quick point will be: we kept Bernardo Silva for 3-4 seasons, and he wanted to go.
He never brought the deal. He never brought the deal to the club.
And Trafford might not bring a deal. I'm sorry, but I'm not seeing.
If Trafford,
I'm not seeing. Hang on, I'm not seeing Trafford being linked with a big money move away currently. I'm not. We know there's the links with Newcastle, and maybe Villa. To me, those clubs are not going to spend the kind of money City are going to want in the summer.
That's
that move may not happen.
Issue. Yeah, that's a different issue. City say to Trafford, "You are worth 50 million. You come with a 50 million deal, we'll let you go." If he comes with a 15 million deal, of course we're not going to let him go. I mean, that would be silly. But if we say you're worth this and someone comes with that money and we decide to keep him and risk his career, because if he's only playing cup games, that's risking his career, it's risking his chance to play for England.
I don't think it is though, Rich.
I don't think it's good.
There's no one close to Trafford. There's no one close to Trafford. When Pickford goes, there's no one close to Trafford. He'll be safe in that job.
Not if he's not playing.
He's not playing. If he's not playing, you can't pick him.
I don't know.
Loads of players are picked that are not currently playing. I mean, we see it all the time, especially with England. My God, the amount of players that are not playing.
Who's playing for England who plays no league or Champions League games or European football games? Who are these loads of players? Who are these loads of players?
I was talking over history periods. I wasn't talking about currently.
Okay, historically, who regularly plays for England who plays no league or European games?
Jordan Henderson.
Those players are traditionally.
Jordan Henderson starts in the league until he was about 36. Started every league game.
And those players are traditionally players who.
It's a homegrown problem as well.
Let Luke Sparkus talk, and then
those players who traditionally get picked regardless of playing time is usually players who have done something in the sport already. And winning a Carabao Cup doesn't really qualify as doing something in the sport, especially when you're like 23, 22, which Trafford, I think he is like 22, 23. Yeah, so if he doesn't play, I don't think he gets picked. And the sad reality is that, at least from what I've been told, and this wasn't told by Martin, this was by someone else, the idea with Trafford was get him this season, let Ederson stay in the club for 12 months, let Trafford learn what it is to be a City player, the demands and the playing style and everything, and then he takes over and becomes the number one keeper. That was the pathway for the kid. The second Ederson goes and Donnarumma comes in, that pathway is gone. And everything you promise him to not go to Newcastle and choose City is all not true anymore. So that's a bit harsh on the kid, I think.
Yeah, I understand your points there, Spartacus. I just don't think he was promised really anything. I think he was brought in when there was issues with Ederson, but I think at the time, he wasn't sat down and said, you're guaranteed to be the number one after Ederson leaves in 12 months. I think it was, you come in, we see what happens, and you see how you go. But then, for me, the second best goalkeeper in the world came, as an opportunity to buy, and we went for it. Do you know what I mean? So I think if you look at it, at the moment, Donnarumma is the better goalkeeper. If we're looking at side by side, I think he's been one of the standout players for the club this season. Do you know what I mean? With the goals that he saved, and that the argument will be that a lot of people will turn around and go, maybe Trafford's distribution is better than Donnarumma's. Well, for me, that's not the most important thing. I was never looking for a direct Ederson replacement. For me, the biggest attribute I wanted from the goalkeeper coming in was to keep the ball at the back of the net, and that's what should be the biggest thing we all want out of a goalkeeper. And Donnarumma is currently that.
Ozzy,
Ozzy,
what
so
do you
good.
do? Ozzy, what do you do if in the cup you get Liverpool in the first game in the Carabao Cup and you lose at Anfield? You get Arsenal away in the first round of the FA Cup. Do you say to Trafford you play 2 games all season? Because even this season, Trafford had got a few games before Donnarumma signed, and we've gone deep in the cup, and he's had high-profile games. So he's got things like the Carabao Cup, where the England coach is at Wembley, to actually, have some influence on the game off the back of a season or 3 or 4 seasons where he played all the time. Next season, we go out the cups early. His season could be over by January, and he could play 2 games. No one's watched him play, and his career is rotting on the vine. And I just don't think that's right to do that to a player. I think City need to man up, need to make a decision on, if we see that Trafford's going to be our first choice goalkeeper in a year or 2, then we try and do something to loan him to someone, or do something to try and keep him a City player, but give him first team football. Or we have to make a hard call and, tell Donnarumma he might have to be on the bench. Your joint first team keepers, because you just can't keep a player that good and never play him.
I think, Rich, it's on the player, isn't it? It's actually on the player. If he wants to further his career, then he'll look for the move, like Palmer did. Do you know what I mean? A lot of these young players now want first team football. That's why they move. So it is a hard one. Like you say, is he prepared to sit on the bench? Maybe at his age, probably not. But I'm with Ozzy at the same time as well. I'm both ways. Do you know what I mean? He is under contract, but I think it's on the player. What career he wants.
Why would City not want 2 brilliant goalkeepers? I mean, for City, if we could have a goalkeeper that good, but it's just that. I mean, maybe we could say you 2 compete for first team.
Well, they are, because that's what goalkeepers do. They have to keep competing.
But they don't really.
Well, I mean,
has a brilliant game. He goes back to the bench as soon as.
No, but I'm about Donnarumma. Yeah. If Donnarumma suddenly was dropping clangers and having an awful time, he would get his chance. The question I'd like to ask you all is if Trafford wasn't coming from the academy and he wasn't English, would we be having this discussion about between him going or staying, and would we be having that discussion?
Because we had that discussion between Ortega and Ederson, and I never thought Ortega was anywhere near as good as.
I don't think that's an issue.
Conversation.
No, I'm just asking because I have seen some people kind of have that debate and that talking about him coming from the academy, him being English. We've already seen the likes of Foden, O'Reilly, come from the academy and doing so well. We'd like to see one of our own, basically. I'm just putting it out there.
I think another example really of what Ozzy said. If Donnarumma gets injured, we've got no. It happened this year. It happened this season when we lost 2 centre halves in the same game, centre backs in the same game, and we had no cover. Really, did we? We were panicking. So it's a similar situation. You don't know what's going to happen.
But I think the difference, Governor, is that you can have 4 centre halves in your squad, and you can start them all 20 games in the Premier League, another 15 games, 20 games each in the Cup. So you can have a centre back who's second choice, and they'll still start 30 games. They'll come off the bench a lot. You can bring them off the bench 20 times. So a squad player in the outfield is still going to potentially can get a lot of football.
But our backups were injured as well.
Well, yeah, but there's that. But in goal, and goalies get injured less than outfield players because, quite simply, they're not running around and putting their bodies under quite the same strain. The problem in goal is you never sub goalies on, so you don't get half an hour every second game off the bench. You don't rotate your goalkeepers, apart from we do it in the cups, but you don't no one really rotates their goalkeepers in the league or in the Champions League. So if you're a second choice goalkeeper
He's not Scott Carson.
You are basically playing in a cup. Some clubs do it just in the Carabao. City do it in both the Carabao and the FA Cup. And, and ironically, it's quite possible this season ends with us winning 2 cups and Trafford plays at Wembley in the final of both and Donnarumma gets nothing. But, and at the end of the season, you might think, Trafford's got 2 medals. He's played the 2 biggest games of City this season and Donnarumma's got nothing. That could happen. And maybe Trafford's happier at the end of the season than Donnarumma. But that's a pretty rare occasion.
I'm going to be honest with you, though. I just really hate how on social media now it's become a witch hunt on certain players. Like now you got Donnarumma getting witch hunted now for no reason at all because people just don't like him now. But I get the opinion that you prefer Trafford over him, but when you start getting targeted abuse, that's why that's why you need to stop. Like this, by the way, right? It's not going to spark us, by the way. I know it's not. You're saying you at all, bro.
I know.
But you know what I mean. It's the ones that have gone too far.
I know what you mean.
You don't need to witch hunt him.
Yeah.
Look, for me, I'll back both of them because I love both of them. I want both to do really well because they're both at our club. And I think both of them have done really well this season. I know both have made mistakes, but they're both human beings.
I agree with you, Luke. I think the debate, for me, the debate is not. I think Donnarumma is an exceptional keeper. I think he was. Close to last season, not this. He was close to Ballon d'Or level. I think, his performance in the Champions League were unbelievable. But I think Trafford has just incredible potential as an all-round goalkeeper. I think he's done some saves that are Donnarumma level in some of the cup games. Up at Newcastle, I think when he was called on in a big pressure game at Wembley, he stepped up with 3 brilliant triple saves. And I think he's good with the ball, and he's very young. And, incredibly agile. So I think Trafford has got a huge ceiling. I think Trafford, he's as good as any other young goalkeeper in the world at that age and probably twice as experienced. So, I think that's the problem, because I don't think Donnarumma's at City for 10, 15 years. No. I don't think that's the way his career's gone. And that's what worries me is that Donnarumma stays 2 years and Trafford's got another brilliant decade in him. We don't want to lose Trafford, but it's not because I don't rate Donnarumma.
Look at Spike because he's absolutely having a meltdown there in the bottom corner.
Yeah. If that actually happens, that Donnarumma stays here for 2 seasons and we lose keeper like Trafford's quality because of that, I'm gonna be.
Listen, it's all if buts and maybes. It's all if buts and maybes, and the only thing City can do is go on currently what's going on. Listen, personally, I'd love for Trafford to stay. I understand the debate of we'd love to see him more, and he's got such a high ceiling. I don't agree with that. But right now, at the 2 goalkeepers, Donnarumma is one of the best. And I'm not saying Trafford say that, but realistically, he isn't that right now. So, and I personally, I think from a board level, I think Swan said it earlier, and I'm saying it now, from a board level, you just have to say to him, listen, unless that offer comes in, like Rich was saying, you keep him, in my opinion. Because I think you do need to have a decent player to come in if Donnarumma gets an injury or whatever. But anyway, I'm going to slightly move on because I want to get on to the game of the weekend. Talk about Trafford because he's going to be in the squad more than likely.
He'll play Saturday.
So, obviously, Saturday we have got Liverpool in the FA Cup. Obviously, we've beaten them for the last 2 Premier League games of the season. On current form, I'd probably say I picked City just above, but obviously with both. If you look at the recent games, obviously they lost. Their last match was against Brighton, lost 2-1. Ours was obviously against Arsenal, and that was a 2-0. Then obviously
League form,
League form was probably the best. We didn't have the best form. We drew against West Ham and obviously lost against Real Madrid twice. They won their game against Galatasaray, and then obviously they played Wolves and won that game. So I think it's a bit even when it comes to kind of when you're looking at comparing side by side, but I think if we're coming out on form, you obviously put City better. I think Liverpool have dropped off a lot. What I did find quite interesting is the top two goal scorers for each side. So Liverpool currently, just in the FA Cup, 2 goals for Mohamed Salah, which I think is a bit like the amount he's dropped off this season. To have 2 goals and be their top scorer in the FA Cup was a surprise to me looking. Does anyone have a guess without looking, Luke, before you start? Does anyone want to take a guess who our top goal scorer is in the FA Cup?
Foden.
FA Cup.
So that's
No.
Brentford. Was it Brentford the game we played?
Is it Marmoush? Is it Marmoush?
Didn't someone score didn't someone score a hat trick in the
no, it's only 2 goals. So
game we won by
O'Reilly. Is it O'Reilly?
Rico Lewis.
Rico Lewis.
One of the kids.
Rico Lewis. I know. That was my. When I saw that stat, I was like, "No, that can't be true."
Dear. Oh dear.
Oh dear. Conversations.
Oh wait.
So yeah, that's quite an interesting stat there. 2 goals in the FA Cup, our highest goal scorer, and that kind of rings a few alarm bells, doesn't it?
Stat, right, Ozzy, that when Haaland has 3 more goals than Rico does in a calendar year, which sounds crazy.
You know.
I'm not being horrible. It's a fact. It's a sad fact right now. Obviously, it'll change, but that's mad. It's a stat though.
We still have Rico Lewis at false 9 now.
Well,
do
that's a debate, isn't it?
Rico wins the FA Cup. Remontada.
So, any nerves going into this game at the weekend for any of you guys? I mean, this is the FA Cup. Anything can happen. You know, we saw this. You know, when we were going into the CARABAO final, didn't we? Where it was us and Arsenal. Arsenal were being tipped as the favourites because their league form, top of the Premier League, doing well in Europe, on for the quad. Yes.
Oh wait.
Bookie's favourite. Blah blah blah. And I think at the moment, I think we are odds on to win this game.
All I would do, Ozzy, with the team, I'd just put Gay in for Ake, and I'd put Aït-Nouri in, put O'Reilly in the middle.
Gay can't play, I think.
Who can?
He can play. He can play.
Who can?
At home.
I thought Gay couldn't play in this.
No, against Salford at home, he scored his first goal for us, didn't he? Against Salford.
Yeah, he did.
Did he?
He did.
I terrible memory.
But he was disguised. He was disguised as Johnny Stones. He had a cagoule up to here.
So Gay and Stones at the back. I'm all for that.
Yeah, that's what I do. Gay for Ake, and O'Reilly in the middle, and put Aït-Nouri back there.
So who are you dropping?
Aït-Nouri will sort that out.
Away from the middle.
Who are you resting? Who are you resting for? O'Reilly going into the mids.
Semenyo.
Yeah. I'll
give Bernardo on the wing.
Turkey. And Turkey's in there.
Bernardo on, yeah.
Turkey wide.
Let's start from goalkeeper and back 4, and then we'll move on. So obviously the goalkeeper is already. Yeah, thanks, Luke. I think the goalkeeper is already pretty much going to be Trafford. Back 4, Rich. Give me your back 4.
Johnny Stones.
Here we go.
And I'll have alongside Johnny Stones. I'll have. I think I'll go Cousin off for this one, and then
Bit bad
Nunes.
news, Rich.
Johnny Stones is injured.
So, start again.
Injured again.
Yeah, I'd substitute him off after 1 minute because he's not allowed to have a crutch with him. No, I think. I mean, it's assuming Diaz is injured as well, so it's probably.
I think he's
probably likely.
Sure
probably Gay and Kuznov because they're the only ones fit.
Yeah.
So so Gay and Kuznov. I don't know if we have any choice because I think there might be. Because I'd probably put Gay ahead of Ake against Liverpool, Nunes and I think Aït-Nouri, because I like O'Reilly in the mids. Rodri, O'Reilly, maybe Bernardo, Cherky, Doku, Haaland. There you go. That's the whole lot.
Yeah. Thanks, Rich. Luke?
Well, obviously be Trafford and goal because it's a cup game. This is the thing of right back because I haven't got a backup right back right. I've obviously got Rico, but I'm not playing Rico at right back anymore.
False nine?
False, yeah, why not?
He scored 2 goals, Luke. Come on, give him some credit.
More tinkering. I said more tinkering in April. Let's do it. Yeah, why not? I know. Nunes, Husnov, Gahey, Aït-Nouri. I'll go for a decent back four. I'd start Nico G this game. I'll give him a game. I think. Would you not? Why not?
Play Rodri. I don't want us to lose the cups.
Okay, Luke, give me. Is this yours or Pep's? If it's yours, carry on, mate. But I think we can have that debate.
Obviously, I think Pep's off Rodri, but I'm just going with what I would personally go with for this game, just because I want to see Nico G get more minutes. I do think he is good and can play well in that role. Nico G, Randers, Nico O'Reilly, Cherky, Haaland up front, and then I'll go for Doku. That's what I'll go with.
Okay. Governor?
Same team as Rich. I would have. I mean, you've got that argument where as soon as Rodri came out with that statement, you've got people saying you should bench Rodri to the end of the season after that statement. But it's a bit rash. But I would go with I would go with Rich's team. That's my team.
Fair enough.
I don't know what the Tommy Balmer is, so if anybody knows.
It's about the North Stand apparently. Trying to get it done for the Villa game. The thing is, though, I said before, any declaration about Pep right now, you just ignore it. Like, I think with Pep, I think he's the kind of person that will kind of tell the club in advance, that kind of thing, and probably will prepare for it. I can't see us rushing to end the season, and then he leaves end the season the last day.
I don't think we need games that right now, Luke. But they just stick to the team. Spartacus.
The bomber is that they want the stand open because Pep's going, not because they want the stand open.
Yeah, pretty much.
I will do Nunes, Gahey, Ake, Aït-Nouri, Rodri, O'Reilly, Bernardo, Cherky, Haaland, and Semenyo. Yeah, Semenyo.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting, the first shot for Ake. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Ake's come in, and I think he's done a brilliant job, hasn't he? Let's be honest. I think, he
always did the job.
He put in such a brilliant performance last. So, it's not a bad shot, in all honesty, Spartacus. I actually would have had him if I thought. God, my brain is going. Somebody remind me of our centre back.
Gahey,
thank you. I thought Gahey wasn't available, so that's why I was going to say Ake. But I think, Nunes, Kuznov, Gahey. I mean, I would go for Aït-Nouri, but I think it may be O'Reilly, and then it would probably be again. I mean, I kind of like the shout of Nico G because I think he deserves to play a lot more, but I've got a feeling it may be Rodri and Bernardo Silva in the midfield. But I would personally play. I'd like to see Nico G and Rodri as that centre pairing, and then I'd have Semenyo, Cherky, Doku, and Haaland. That would be what I would go with.
What I'm looking at with my team is Liverpool's weakest point right now is the midfield. They can't cover the area in between Gavin Birch and the two centre backs. So I'm looking to put as many bodies in that area as possible, and you hold the width of the fullbacks since they don't really have much space going forward in the wide areas. So you can't afford to just use both fullbacks going high up the pitch, and you don't need the safety nets of the pace of Kusunov there because they don't really have much pace going on. And I think Gahey is enough to do that. And if you have the physicality of O'Reilly crashing in the box late, you're able to find those crosses from Nunes and Aït-Nouri into Semenyo, O'Reilly, Haaland, a lot bigger bodies, and they're going to have a lot harder time dealing with those.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense, mate. I think for Pep, he wants a stable midfield. I think he wants the players that are not going to let him down. I think those are Rodri and Bernardo. And again, we were saying it at the kind of the beginning of the show when we were talking about Bernardo and about how much he's a shithouse, especially against Liverpool. I suppose you do want him in this team. Do you know what I mean? For what he'll bring, and how much he'll wind up the Liverpool players and the crowd. So yeah, it's hard not to have him in. And I think O'Reilly at left back is probably why you would have him there. In all honesty, like you said, despite just the gate crash. So I think he works well with Doku, but equally so does Aït-Nouri. I think it's brilliant to have those options, isn't it? Really going forward.
I know Spartacus, I don't know if you know, but is Ekitike injured?
No, he played against Brazil, so I don't think yet.
Okay.
But again, he's not the fastest player on the pitch. It's not like Isaac, who's got a lot of physicality and a lot of pace on the ball. He's more of that technical tall man. So he wants the ball to feed, not the ball into the space.
Honestly, when I look at Liverpool, the threats that I see from Liverpool is Ekitike, but maybe that was at the kind of first half of the season. He slightly dropped off, and I don't know how much that injury may affect him going into the weekend. Slobozova has probably been Liverpool's best player. We think about that free kick he scored against us was just absolutely world class. There's no denying that. And then look at the rest of the team. I'm not really frightened of. Wirtz. I know he had a good international break. I know he scored that screamer, but in all honesty, he just hasn't turned up enough for Liverpool. And against us, he's been non-existent.
I think he's been okay this season. Not 150 million good, but I think he's been okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Spartacus. I have to disagree with you, mate. It's not only the price tag that's around his neck, but I just think with the amount of height that he was brought in at, he's come nowhere near that player.
He's got a few DNA, but not anywhere near the level that should be getting from someone with quality.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and he may settle into the league. He may come in and he may do well for them next season. But right here and right now against us at the weekend, I don't particularly find him a massive threat. I think you're right to talk about the midfield. They're very open, and I don't. I think that could be got at quite easily at the weekend. I just don't think Liverpool. I think there are a lot of issues with Liverpool right now with players. Their manager's getting a lot of stick, isn't he? Whether he will be here at the start of next season, there's still a lot of debate around that for Liverpool fans. I think there's just a lot. Liverpool is really unsettled at the moment. They're not sure if they're going to get into Europe or at least into the Champions League for Europe. And it's been a woeful season for them. So they're going to want to come away with something. But at the end of the day, is it more important for them to concentrate on the Premier League right now and try and get back into that, hopefully for them, top four, because, that's what they really need going into next summer and their potential rebuild and who knows, potentially a new manager. Do you know what I mean? So, how much they're really going to be focused on this game.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll sack him.
I mean, it'd be a first, wouldn't it, for Liverpool to sack a manager after winning the Premier League in his first season? But there's a lot of Liverpool fans that are not happy with him right now. So,
yeah, I think they're wrong. Right, I get the Alonso shouts for Liverpool, but it doesn't always mean that it's guaranteed for it to work out. So I'm not saying Slot. You shouldn't get rid of Slot. I think Slot's obviously been quite poor this season. He has been, but it's whether you're getting onto Slot anyway is a risk. There is a risk anyway. So do I think really well a Liverpool with Wirtz there? I think he probably would do, but it's more like the rest. Because obviously, because with Salah going now as well, That's a big void you got to fill now. Obviously, he has been good this season. That's still a big player in your squad that's leaving end of the season. And obviously, goal threat's been obviously apart from Ekatike, has been quite poor. So, any goals going forward for Liverpool next year. So, be interesting to see what happens there anyway this summer.
Yeah. I suppose looking slightly ahead, looking at kind of, I think, I would imagine, I mean, for me, and we haven't kind of gone through the scores yet and stuff like that, but for me, I think, I would imagine we would go into the next round. Maybe we can have a look at who we think of those threats going into the next round. But I'll get your score predictions. Rich, can you do a message? Because I've not heard from Pat or Martin what their score lines are. So if you quickly message them.
It's the cup. It's the cup. So I don't think it counts towards the league, but we should get them.
Get them away.
I'm going to go 2-1. And
I'll go 3-1.
2-1 to City, and I'll put the message up now.
Fair enough. Governor Spartacus.
Go on, Governor. You're muted.
You're on mute, mate.
Right.
He'll realise in a minute when we're not.
Sorry, 3-1. Sorry, I think Szoboszlai's the danger.
Yeah,
so I'll go 3-1.
Yeah.
Famous last words, but I do think it's going to be a very comfortable game. It's like a 3-0 game.
At least we know he's watching, Rich?
Yeah.
Or kind of watching. Maybe not paying that much attention. Sorry, Martin's messaging and he's saying it doesn't count, and it's like... Well,
doesn't count. Oh, yeah, this doesn't count.
Jesus. He just doesn't listen.
Breaking the rules always, Martin, breaking the rules.
Yeah.
Apparently, Ozzy loses 3 points for cheating.
Oh, yeah. Listen. Yeah. Talk your waffle, Martin. Talk your waffle.
I'm going to say as well, though. I mean, the rest of the games in the cup, though, I'm going to be honest with you, right? None of them are getting. I think Port Vale, Chelsea. Now, you think Chelsea should win that, but the thing is, Chelsea at home have been poor this season. And Port Vale will go there thinking, why not go for it or nothing to lose? I think it's one of those games where Chelsea probably should win the game, but it would probably be a Port Vale, someone got a result.
Surely not.
Do you know, I think if there's an upset, it is more likely to be
Southampton.
Yeah.
Than Chelsea,
Still
to be honest. I think
Chelsea.
I think it's a really interesting game, and I think we talked about Blues Down Under. I think it's a really interesting game because with all those injuries and withdrawals and all the mess around Arsenal, it's got to be really tempting for Arteta to leave out a lot of players.
Well, I think, Rich.
Can't get the quad. A few of them won't really want to play there. So for me, and Southampton are in form. They've been shooting up the Championship.
Just been looking.
They've really.
They're currently the form team in Europe right now. The form team in Europe.
So I actually think Southampton in a far harder league playing much better, and the unsettlement that could be a sneaky upset. That could be a sneaky upset, and that would be funny.
Also, that would put the treble in complete disarray if that happens.
I think it would put a real shock into the fan base and things. So I actually think Arteta needs to play his best team and go and hammer that. But I don't think he can because they play City in between two sporting games, don't they? So it's going to be they've got problems now that we don't have by. Good problems if you're in the cup rather than being out of Europe, but it's going to be interesting to see. And I just have a sneaky feeling that, whatever the odds Southampton are, I don't know if they're like 10-1 or 8-1, whatever they are, that might be a sneaky one. I don't see Port Vale at Chelsea though, I have to say.
If they lose to Southampton, then there is a chance we'll win the league.
No. I'll say it right. Arsenal's record at St Mary's is actually worse than our record at St Mary's. Ours isn't perfect ourselves going there, but Arsenal are terrible at Southampton.
Yeah.
So, there's a very good chance. Late game as well. Late game, evening game on the lights.
isn't that a certain somebody that we know who lives down that way? I think he needs to be in the away end for that game.
Come on, Luke.
Me? What? Away? What?
Go on.
Away
Get your
end?
Southampton season ticket out. Come on.
Away end? What are you about? I haven't got time for that.
Yeah. Apparently, that Southampton are 9-1.
9-1, yeah. They are
Yeah.
9-1.
Worth putting quick tenner.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry
obviously
about
we don't sponsor any bets, and you know,
Don't
be
encourage it.
careful. Yeah, we don't
Mind
encourage
you,
it.
Luke, Port Vale are 22-1. So if you go for a Port Vale Southampton double, you know
Do what? I
That's-
might do it.
that's 200
Quick
over
tenner
200
on
to
that
1.
one.
I'm going to win.
Over 200, over 200 to 1, we can all retire.
I mean, going off what Luke said, I mean, Grimsby beat United, and no one's seen that.
Can happen.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I
Never
mean?
ruled
You know, stranger
ruled
things
out.
have happened.
I mean, this is the FA Cup, and it's one of the things that we love about the FA Cup is that anything can happen. You know, we've seen giant killings in the past, and it's happened to us. Do you know what I mean? So that's, I think Arsenal at the moment are probably thinking this is a game they're going to walk, and they expect to win. But I would be looking at this as we all are, you know, and going, this team are in form. You know what I mean? And it's away. It's not a gimme. So yeah, I think it's going to could be a banana skin. And I think as much as I would partly love to see a final between City and Arsenal and us knock them out again, I wouldn't be complaining if Southampton do the job early. I really would.
That'd be crazy.
Their confidence even more going into the league. We'd all love it even more, wouldn't we? Really, let's be honest.
I feel this is the thing. If we beat them at home, which I think we can do, well, this is the thing. I think for me, it's like if we get the goals up, get Haaland scoring goals again, then I'm quite very, very confident. It's more that I want to see more goals from the attack. So that's what I want to see a bit more. I think Haaland, we need Haaland for the rest of the season if we win the league. I think we can't have him out of form for the rest of the year to go and win it. I think we need some goals from him. So hopefully that with Liverpool, obviously Chelsea, I've done that as well. Hopefully we can get a chance to sort of get his form back going again, because obviously when Arsenal comes to the Etihad, it's going to be a massive one. So I want everyone firing if possible.
Yeah, and that's from Martin. He does apologise for not being on tonight, beyond his control. He'll be back Sunday for post-match, and he sends his love and send it back, mate. You just look after yourself and the family. That's the most important thing right now. And we look forward to seeing you back on Sunday for the usual grit and determination. Yeah, big up, mate. Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a good chance we get into this final. I mean, what is it now? Would this be our third final in 3 seasons?
On the bounce.
On the bounce.
Obviously, let's win the game first. Obviously, win the game
We
first.
do, but I'm just saying. I'm just.
Whoa!
The fourth? Isn't it the fourth game on the bounce? Wouldn't it be the fourth final on the bounce though?
It'd be our
It's
first
treble,
our
4
first final. It'll be our first
last
straight
season. Yeah.
Oh, no, fourth.
Yeah,
It'd be,
fourth.
you're right, fourth. Yeah.
Oh
Because
yeah,
we
it would
had
be
four.
fourth. Yeah, because you're right, Spiker. Sorry, yeah. I mean, what I was trying to say is, I think it's a hell of a record. Do you know what I mean?
One
For Pep
losses.
and this club to be in so many finals and so many times. I mean, yeah, we've been unlucky over the last couple of seasons, but I just think that's the thing for me. It's just we're in every competition pretty much until coming to the end. So I just, it's absolutely amazing what this manager and this club and these players can do. But yeah, right, gents, we'll get onto final chats now. Is there anything anyone wants to kind of bring up? Anyone wants to talk about before we wrap up for the night?
Yeah.
Rich?
Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, just make sure after Southampton win, you all start watching AFTV for the day, because it could be quite funny.
I might go watch it and laugh.
Oh, the meltdowns.
Yeah, no, you know, I'll tell you
and
for City, the chance to beat the Red Scouse 3 times in a season. I'm not sure if that's ever happened. You know, it was 1938. We last did the double over them in the league. So if we do the double over them and knock them out the cup, that's got to be, you know, it'd have to be someone a lot older than me to remember when that last happened. So that would be fantastic. You know,
That sounds a bit rich.
Exactly. Which I reckon the governor might be.
No, look at Governor. He's just young. Governor, what, you mid-40s?
Me? You're my friend 5. My age is in my title.
Yeah, Governor, he said you were born in the mid-40s. I don't think you should be thanking him.
I'm 60 in May.
Well, you don't look it, mate.
Rich
is the one who looks like the 90-year-old in this panel.
The big 60.
Well, congrats when it comes, mate. Congrats. Go on, Luke. What were you going to say, mate?
Yeah. Look, Joe, what? Let's try and season strong. You know, I think the league is kind of like up to us at this point. Obviously, beat Palace. Obviously, well, it's weird, right? Because that Palace game will only get arranged when out of Europe, isn't it? So if they keep going in Europe, when's it going to? Because it meant to be when I'm going to have to play like awkwardly before Villa, probably the way it's going. So we'll see how that goes. But all we got to do, right? Every game, give it our all. Back the lads week in, week out. Just honestly, look. UCL's a shame again. That we're out early again because it'd be nice to have had those big games to sort of play to get the squad going again. But I think it is what it is. It is what it is. I think at the end of the day. But every game now, Cup, League, just go for it and see what happens. So again, it's very possible that a City team can win a domestic treble. It sounds crazy, but it could happen if we get the league right in terms of the games we've got to win. I also drop bottle it as well in some games. But yeah.
Does anyone know that the date of Crystal Palace's game
hasn't been arranged yet?
It's not. It's to be arranged.
Because if they get knocked out, that's it for them, and they'll be, by the time they play us, they'll be on the beach, won't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's because they're still in Europe, aren't they? And that's why they're waiting for them to get knocked out of Europe so they can play the game midweek. If they don't get knocked out of Europe, I don't know.
And when's the final?
It would have to be after the end of the season.
It's in the 27th of May, I think.
Who's Villa? One last game rambling in the middle of the week to win the league.
That's crazy.
That would be.
It's on the 27th. I do think
27th.
I do think that they have a very good chance of getting to the final as well, by the way, because realistically, they should be able to beat both Shakhtar and AZ.
Well, I'm Fiorentina. I'm Fiorentina aren't a good rival.
Arsenal.
Fiorentina is the hard one.
Arsenal have got Palace as well, haven't they?
Away, last day. Away, last day.
Yeah.
Gee.
I mean, I agree, Luke. I think there's still so much to play for, really. I would be gobsmacked if we get a domestic treble at this stage, but obviously. It would be unbelievable, really, wouldn't it? But
it would be.
I mean, I mean, it would be. For me, I still think we're in the league show. I do feel that it's not over yet. And I'm sure Arsenal fans are already thinking, they're setting up their parade and it's all done for them. But
get it done, lads. Win it for.
That's the spirit, Ozzy. There's too many people have tapped out. Some even tapped out in January. Do you know what I mean?
Martin?
Not so much Martin. There's only one I mentioned was LB. He tapped out in January.
He did tap out.
He flip-flops.
He does. Sorry, LB, mate.
To be fair, I did a lot when he also got injured, so I can't say much.
Oh, Spikers. Dear, oh dear.
Do you know what it is, right? If we do it, I think it's probably one of the best title wins under Pep. Because, I mean, considering the team we've got this year, how up and down we've been, to win the league at this point would be a great achievement with this current squad. So,
yeah,
definitely. And I think it's more. it's not on us to go on and win it. I think it does feel that Arsenal really need to kind of lose a game or draw a game for us to kind of really win it. Oh no, yeah, Luke, I definitely think it can happen because this Arsenal team have been lucky. They're not. I don't think they're playing particularly well. Yes, they're getting, they're winning the games and getting it just over the line. And sometimes that's all it takes. Do you know what I mean? Especially at the end of the season, we've done it. Do you know what I mean? We've not played well, but we've got the games over the line. But we've been there and done it when we have won the leagues before. This Arsenal side have not won it. Do you know what I mean? And they've come close and they've been the bridesmaid, never the bride, and their mentality is just so fickle. And their manager as well, like you've got to have, for me, you've got to have the mentality of knowing you can do it and not melting down and not completely just, as you've done so many times before.
I'll be real, right? I don't think the Arsenal fan base recovers if they bottle it all. Because if you took all that rubbish, right, and they bottle everything, we win the FA Cup in the league, and let's say Bayern win the Champions League, I hope they do for the company.
There's no coming back.
Imagine the laughing that we'd be doing them. After all the talk they were spoken about, I was saying before, right? Win something before chatting shit. Win something. Yeah. Don't just say you've done it. Go and look. If you do it, fair play. But you got to actually go win the games. Get it done. I'm sick of saying, treble. You've done nothing yet. You've won nothing in like 6 years. Come on, like win something first. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me, Luke, is that's why I said winning the CARABAO Cup, the League Cup, was so important for us, is because it sets in that mentality that it's not done for Arsenal. If you can go on and win a competition like that, then you can go on and start saying, right, now we are going for the league, now we are going for the Champions League. If you can't do that against a team that are not at their best right now and are still, in a transition period, I think that screams volumes for me. It really does.
I've got to say goodnight, Ozzy. I need to get going.
Fair enough, Rich. Thanks for being on, mate, and we'll catch you.
Yeah, take
you
care.
too, mate.
Enjoy the match, everyone. Yeah. Take care.
See you later, mate.
Take care, mate.
Yeah. So for me, honestly, I agree with you, Luke. I think this Arsenal side are just not they're not the finished article in the respects of, yes, they've got some good players. Yes, they've got a decent sort of manager who's got them to a certain point, but is he going to get them over the line? I think there's a lot of still questions around Arsenal, really. And I think currently we are the team on form, with a team that believe in themselves right now after winning that final. So, for me, I don't count us out at all out of this league. So, yeah, absolutely.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Any other business for anybody?
That's it, really. Can't wait for the game.
The one thing I will quickly say is, because it's been bugging the hell out of me this last few days, is the constant news of Pep leaving. I'm going to be brief, and guys, you can have your say if you really want to, but I am going to be brief with this. Is that for me, and I said this in my Instagram post earlier today, it is literally all noise, because there are so many aggravators out there right now. When I'm talking about just sports media, and I'm talking about the likes of big accounts like Terry on the football terrace, who's for the last 3-4 days has constantly put this out there. He's had 2 or 3 shows a day about this, and I just think, mate, listen, there is no news. Shut your mouth, all right? Yeah. Keep quiet, because you're talking a load of waffle. And I respect some of the stuff he does, but right now, mate, keep it quiet, because you literally are talking absolute crap. All right? There is no news at all. Pep has not made a decision. Nobody knows what Pep's decision is right now. At the moment, the club don't need to ask those questions, because at the moment he's got a contract up until the end of next season. And I would be not surprised if he renews. But for me, until the news comes out, stop talking waffle and stop listening to the waffle, because nobody knows anything. All right? Nobody knows anything. It's just rumours, and it's coming from, like I said, aggravators who just want Pep gone. They want him out of City. They want him out of this league. Is because they all know once he's gone, then we've got more of a chance to try and compete. Because the longer Pep stays, especially at City, the longer our dominance can continue, and that's what scares them. Absolutely scares them. Is that he will stay beyond next season.
And also for Ozzy, right? If he was going to go, right, I think it'd been announced by now anyway. It was this year.
They're not going to listen. Caldoon and the rest of the board would not let Pep leave in a World Cup year when you just know you're not going to be able to bring a manager in that you want probably that's going to come in and have very little time with the squad because there's going to be very much no pre-season. It'd just be a mess. I just don't see it. I know there are certain people, even from the City side, where they say it's up in the air and, you know, he may go, blah, blah. It's 50-50. For me, it's not even 50-50. I do not see him going at all. In the next season, maybe, and we can talk about that. But for me, he stays, end of debate.
Yeah.
Same. I'm right there with you.
Governor?
I'm the same. If he extends, he extends. I mean, what a journey we've been on with him. Like
years.
As you know, he usually stays at clubs 3 or 4 years and then he goes. And then how long he's been with us, it's just been a great journey. I think, you know, when at the end of his contract, if he walks, he walks. I know these people saying Pep's washed and all that. Every club would like him at their club. So I don't get this. Pep's washed. Do you know what I mean?
So every club, and I don't care. United,
right.
Liverpool, Chelsea,
they all want him.
They'd all want him. Do you know what I mean? They would all want him in a heartbeat. They'd drop their managers instantly and take him because that's how good he is, and that's how good he still is. All right.
Yeah.
There is no other manager like Pep Guardiola out there. Nobody.
To be fair,
go on, sorry.
If you were the best by a country miles ahead of anybody, and now you're just the best, that is kind of a fall off. But you're still the best, so there's no point in even trying to discuss.
There is.
My dream is. Go on, Luke.
So when he goes, it'll happen. I think at some point it'll happen.
Pep will can't last forever, Luke.
Look, I love to, yeah, but I just think I think company long term will be the guy, but I don't think right now I would say up to Pep. I think if it is a Maresca or something like that to cover for 2 years, then fine. But I think whatever happens after Pep, that next manager, but much is done under Pep. That's what we've got to do. For me,
yeah. And
I think my dream for Pep is if he walks, he'll have a good break, and then my dream is for him to get the England job, because every Englishman would love Pep to manage England. I'd love that.
Yeah,
there is the constant talk of him, you know, going to England and being the England manager. I think, that may be where he goes. I don't know if that's the thing for me. Is that Pep is an intensive manager. He's one of those managers, kind of like Alex Ferguson, where you need to be around him all the time. You need that intensity. You know, you need those 3 games a week to get the best out of Pep. So being a club manager, I'm not sure I fully see. I wouldn't say no because it's Pep Guardiola, but club manager, I'm just international manager, I'm just not sure about. But listen, when he goes, you know, and it is when, because he can't go on forever. But yeah, he goes with absolute admiration from us as a fan base. I have no doubt about that, and we will miss him. We really will miss him because everything he's done, it'll never be repeated, probably in our lifetimes, if we're being honest. So, yeah. Right, guys. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's joined the panel tonight. Ed dropped off quite early. He had work, so he apologises. He had to leave. Obviously to Rich being on. Thanks again, mate. And Spartacus, always a pleasure to have you on, mate. Governor, again, don't look your age, mate. You look fantastic. Thank you for being on. Luke, night of my lifetime. Have you got anything coming up, mate?
I think I might be doing a watch along for the game Saturday. I'm doing a friend of mine on Saturday who watches a lot of the games. So I've got to sort it out tomorrow. But yeah, that's probably a plan coming up. So
okay, brilliant. Well, everyone watching, keep an eye on for Luke, and if he does that watch along, it'd be brilliant to watch. From the Mancunian Way, we will be back on Sunday for the post match. Martin, I think, is going to be back hosting, and we'll see he's available for the regular panel. Myself, I'll try and get on if I can, but I'm working, so it depends what time that is. And Rich and Pat will be on, hopefully. I will do a post-match on Instagram with Tone after the full-time results. We haven't worked out if it's on his or the Mancunian Way Insta, but I will let you know in the next few days. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's watched. Really appreciate all your comments. I'm sorry I've not kept up with them all. Martin is so much better than I am, but thank you to everyone who's commented. Like, subscribe if you haven't already, and yeah, thank you so much to everyone, and we will see you after the result.